Maestro Maxim Vengerov, congratulations for your superb latest performance, for your brilliant recital. How was it for you to play with the pianist Vag Papian in Timisoara, a city devastated by a cyclone, but a city which was elected European Capital of Culture for 2021?
I was very happy to come to Timisoara. In spite of the storm that you had, I've had the chance to look at the city. It's really wonderful, and the audience is great, and it was wonderful to play a recital here with Vag Papian, who is my pianist for over 15 years. I worked with him on many occasions and on many recitals, and we have now this tour in Romanian tour, Timisoara, Sibiu and Bucharest.
You've played many times in Bucharest. What does it mean to you to play at the Enescu festival?
For me, Enescu is really my musical idol. The dimension on which he was flying, yes, as a musician is really unreachable, yes, for any musician. And for any musician, this is a goal to strive for, to be a great violinist and to be a fantastic pianist. Even Cortot was envious of his piano technique, his skills as a conductor. He was even a candidate to be a New York Philharmonic chief. Then to be a great teacher, to produce so many wonderful students, including Yuri Menuhin, Ida Händel, and so many others. For me, Enescu always in my heart, wherever I am. And of course, to come to the festival, it's a great joy, because I love the Bucharest audience, I love the organization, and this time I'm going to play and present Enescu second sonata. I've never played Enescu's works, and now I'm discovering the magic of his music as a composer.
There are thousands of different strokes and colors, so many bow grips and vibrati, so many variations in intonation, for so many different violin pieces. What is, in your vision, the ideal communication between a violinist and the piece he is preparing? I think it is always a difficult and complex process.
Every composer has his technical goals to achieve, and if I play Brahms, Brahms was not a violinist. Brahms was just writing his music, and he used instruments to express himself. Now when I play Enescu or Paganini or Wieniawski, those are the real composers that played the violin, and they were great at their profession. Every composer, violinist has his own technical style, and it's very important to be in every composition with every composer different, almost unrecognizable. So in the same recital, when we play Enescu and Brahms in the first half, there has to be almost two different violinists, musicians playing, and that's the challenge of the instrumentalist. And besides that, the violin is a very complex instrument and so multidimensional that every composer offers different colors, and that violinists, together with the pianist, they must execute this palette of coloring and interpretation.
Nowadays, many violinists embrace the idea of adapting vibrato as the main tool to add expression to the music. There are many, let's say, fashions in the world of violin in comparison with high-fets or sharing in a Bach partita, for example. Do you feel that today you have more freedom as a violinist?
I think today, instrumentalists, indeed violinists, we are in the most privileged era, because so many incredible music has been written for this instrument, whether it is instrumental or just written by great composers like Beethoven and Brahms. And as it is understood that Beethoven, Brahms use the violin to express themselves, then the violinist composers, they use their skills and their technical abilities as part of the composition. So we can play today in so many different styles, and every composer requires a different coloring, meaning also different vibrato expression, different strokes of the bow, different even subtleties of the vibrato. But the old school of the violin playing, for me, this is Enescu school that comes from the past. This French school of Franco-Belge school, and this is for me the greatest goal to strive for. And there are particular descriptions of how to hold the bow, how to hold the fingers, how to vibrate. And it's very important for young people always to remember this old school and not to be detached from it. If we're detached from the greatest school of great generation of Enescu, Isaïe, those that we could hear recordings, we could not experience recordings of, let's say, Paganini, which is bel canto style, or Wieniawski, or Telemann, or greatest composers like Bach, that played violin, Tartini, but everything is coming from the voice. Italian school comes from the voice, and if we think about the voice and we try to imitate human voice on the violin, I think that when we are on the right track. And I was very lucky as a musician, as a violinist, because I was born in a musical family and my mother was a choir conductor.
I know.
So I started singing when I was 5.
Which is very important, yes.
Yeah, and for me, everything else, I didn't want to play piano because of that reason, because I could not sing on this instrument immediately.
Yes.
And I took the violin and said, oh, great, this I can imitate the human voice. I think if we can imitate the human voice, whatever we play, even the fast music, should be first of all sung beautifully, and then practice in the slow tempo, and then move forward.
There is perhaps too much technology now in 2017 because of the internet or the CD companies. We could say that the purity, the values of the classical music, it all seems to evaporate somehow. What do you think, Maestro? Am I right or wrong?
I think the arts and the cultural values, all the human values that people have, they will never change. The techniques, the high technology is just a tool to communicate to other people, to communicate the different emotions and to speak to the soul. But the high technology should never be a primary source. It's just a tool, it's just a vehicle. And we cannot put this on the first step. I think we have to, we don't have to underestimate the power of music, arts, and those things that will always bring us to the root of humanity. Without that, there is no development. And on the short view, on the short side, perhaps we could make a huge progress with high technology, and we'll be happy with that because now the life goes so fast. But in the end of the day, we'll have to come back to the roots. There is no other way.
What should be the greatest virtue in a great violinist like you, Maestro?
Human soul, that's what counts. when you hear greatest violinists or musicians, conductors or pianists or be it the singer, you can always hear a great soul behind the instrument, behind the person. Because when you hear the sound identity of each musician, when you hear Enescu or you hear Isai or you hear Cortot or Horowitz, you can always say, those are these people that played, and you can recognize their voice. I think the voice of the musician should be always recognized, like the voice when we speak.
Yes. What are the physical and spiritual elements behind Maxim Vengerov's art of playing the violin?
For me, playing the violin is expressing my soul in music and expressing emotions of the composer and the content of the composer that I'm delivering. And each concert for me is a recreation of composition. For instance, if I have to play Beethoven violin concerto, every time I come on stage, I think this is the world premiere.
Yes.
And people have never heard this piece. In fact, I'm even improvising.
Yes.
And I think that's the greatest quality you can bring on stage.
To discover new things, new meanings every time.
Yeah, yes. Every time. Because if you know it all, then you do not leave the space for improvisation, for discoveries. And each concert has to be a discovery.
Do you consider the music a reflection of the human intellect, or music is essentially about feelings?
Music is both intellectual, rational, and emotional. And I think it is very important to find the synergy between the two. And if your music is only intellectual, then you have tipped on just on the surface of what humanity is about. Or if you are just emotional about the music, which is great, is a great quality, but again, the rational has to be always go intact with a practical and spiritual. I think spirit, mind, and the body, those are elements, and all these things have to be in harmony.
Besides classical music, you are inspired by many different styles. Now in 2017, how would you describe your journeys through jazz and rock music?
Because of the knowledge of my predecessors, like Enescu, like Rachmaninoff, who were not just brilliant instrumentalists, but they were great composers, teachers, conductors. I've always strived to continue what these incredible men have done and have created. Like the branch of the tree, I try to follow their path, creating something new, of course, because each person is individual. And one must not reproduce what has been done just before, but you have to continue. But I think that's why I have experimented quite a lot in jazz and Baroque, and even I touched the rock.
I know.
Because this is the reflection of our life. This is what the new music is very important. Yeah, and I wanted to know as much as possible about everything that exists in the world. I returned finally to my roots to be classical musician. I love jazz and I still like very much rock, but I let rock musicians and jazz musicians to do what they do best.
Of course. You are also a respected conductor. You've conducted major orchestras like Berlin Philharmonic, New York Philharmonic, London Symphony, Chicago Symphony, Montreal and Toronto Symphony orchestras, etc. with great success. Of course, every orchestra expects the conductor to give something special. I think the musicians have to feel a conductor do it, especially for pleasure. Am I right?
Yes. I think for me the conducting has always been just a continuation of my journey. Because Bruckner and Mahler didn't write violin concertos. I have always wanted to touch on this repertoire, and I wanted to make music in other ways than just playing the violin or teaching. So conducting is a very important, integral part of mine, but it will always develop. And you know, Enescu started conducting in his late 30s,
yes.
Beginning 40s. So I think that conducting is the profession of the second half of your life.
Yes.
When you have acquired a lot of knowledge and experience as a musician, then you have the right to stand in front of the orchestra and to communicate your music, your vision to the interpretation, to all these men that play in the orchestra. The most important value that the conductor can bring to the orchestra is sound identity, because each conductor can and must hear different coloring.
Yes.
And it's miracle what you can bring to the orchestra just by the telepathy, just by the gestures and by your mind. So I would regard the conducting as the most spiritual and most amazing, most complex profession out of all professions that I'm occupying myself.
You've played various Stradivari instruments. At present, I think it is the 1727 X-Kreutzer. What is the essence, maestro, of the X-Kreutzer sound?
When I come to play recitals or orchestral performances, not only I'm bringing and presenting great compositions, but also I let the audience to experience the great color of my instrument that I play. Indeed, the X-Kreutzer Stradivari 1727, made by the great master in the end of his life, is one of the greatest creations. And many people talk about Strad's golden period, which dates from 1700 onwards for the next 20 years. Now, my violin was created in the later part, when the sonority of Strad's became more darker.
Yes.
And that adds the great value to the instrument, because when I perform with orchestras, and let's say I perform Beethoven or Brahms concerto, I must not sound anymore like the violinist anymore, but I have to connect to different instruments of the orchestra, for instance, horn,
yes.
or cello or flute, and you have to have the possibilities and range of the instrument that will allow you to do so. And this instrument allows me to do so many things. It's a true miracle. And I play this violin now for almost 20 years.
One of your greatest passion is teaching. Do you think that competitions are a platform to launch young artists' international careers?
Competitions should be a great platform because nowhere else you can experience young players playing one after the other, presenting different styles from Baroque, Romantic, Classic to the modern, and you can compare themselves, among themselves, what they're capable of doing in the recital with orchestra, and you can compare to others. And it's not just about the winning the competition, it's about the goal that one strives for. I remember when I was 15, I started to prepare for cow flesh competition. I had only 2 months to prepare. It was done rather on the short notice. But I remember after playing a competition, I was a different person. I made a great progress, and yes, I happened to win the competition. But I made a great progress, and that was very important. We have to think about how to optimize the competitions. I think that's what we have to think today, because today there are a lot of other possibilities how to promote yourself. For instance, you put the videos on YouTube, and by the amount of clicks and likes, you can optimize your viewing and your career, and even you can become so popular.
Yes.
Whether YouTube and internet is the greatest quality to judge the excellence, that is another thing. That is another subject. But I think the live performances today, they become even more valued today, because the recording industry today, we can say, suffers crisis, because nobody wants to buy recordings anymore.
Yes,
everyone.
Unfortunately.
Yes, but I think the studio recordings are still the best thing and the most important value for musicians to record. When I recorded my first CD, it was still LP. I was 10 years old. I came to the studio and I spent in the studio 3 days. After these 3 days, I walked out being a completely different musician, because I could listen to myself, I could compare the takes. I was creating my own style in the recording. And by listening to yourself, you improve. And that's how I have always improved, by listening to myself and listening to others. And it's very important to listen to yourself in the best quality. And today, the technology is on such a high level, so we should fully use that. But we should not underestimate the art of recording, because many people argue that studio recordings, they are done in the laboratory, and they are like in the operational theater. They're very sterilized and they have no emotions. I disagree, because if you are able to create out of studio recording the best live performance that makes you shake or move or you're touched, I think that's the art.
By the way, in a recording session, do you play differently for the microphone than you do for a live audience?
I play differently.
Yes.
I play differently for the recording in the studio, definitely, because I put the microphones so sensitively that you can hear even the sound of rosin. And I think after the sessions that I go, when I go to perform in audience with live performance, my performances are more enhanced.
Yes.
And more detailed, and the audience is getting more out of it.
Yes.
I think that's the greatest value of making the studio recording and then going live, because it adds to the performance. Because what you can bring is the quality and concentration. And in the live performance, you can easily get lost playing for the audience. That's what we do. We play for the audience. But we don't have to underestimate the sound quality, the subtleties. Playing violin is like polishing the diamond. It requires incredible sense of concentration and subtlety and so many things. And that you can learn that in the studio, and you can bring that to the audience afterwards.
You've received so many awards: Grammy, Gramophone, Edison, Echo Classics. Are the distinctions really important for someone like you, Maestro, who is hailed as one of the world's finest musicians and often referred to as the greatest living string player in the world today?
These awards mean nothing. Literally nothing, you know. I'm not one of these people that would be happy walking with the awards here and the trophies in the right and left hand. The biggest award is when the audience, when people call me next day after the concert and say they feel much better.
Yes.
They feel recharged.
Yes.
I think that's what the music, the mission of the music is.
How do you feel in these turbulent times, full of social and political crises?
Today, I would say the music must play, and plays already, a most important role in the society. If you think about it, we use gadgets. We don't part with them. We hold it in our hands. Very soon they're going to be engraved in us. We're going to see things with the Google eyes, with the Facebook glasses. It's only in the concert that lasts for 1 or 2 hours we can let all of this go and just let music reflect our emotions and our souls. This is the best thing one can do today, is go to concerts, go to operas, go to see paintings, museums, arts and created by greatest people of all times, and see the nature. That's what we must always, every day, we must find time for that.
Besides the music, what brings you joy in life?
Family.
Yes. Have you found the philosophy of your life?
I'm not a philosophical man. I believe I'm very, very spiritual. I try to be, because to have the musical talent, I have to thank God every day for giving me this opportunity to play for people, to share my soul with them. I think my every day starts with the prayer that I can live the day and being worthy of being in this world.
What is it, as you go forward through life, that you try, that you want to achieve, Maestro?
I don't try to achieve anything. I just try to be. I have dreams and everyday goals that have to be accomplished. or if it's not today, then I let them be for tomorrow. But I just want to be guided, and the more I live, the less I want to achieve, the more I want to be really directed in life. It's like, it's very important to be always on the track, on the rail, be like the train that goes and you never know where the road will take you. And that's the joy of life, because if everything is planned, then there is no sense of improvisation, discovery. I think that's what the most important thing is, to be joyful, to be hopeful, to have the desire to be able to be happy, even to be frustrated. But you have to be always in touch with your soul. You have to be alert, you have to be sensitive, always awakened. And music helps me, because every day when I play, it always keeps me on fire.
Thank you very much. It was an honor for us.
Thank you.